Hi, this is Nancy Ryan, a marriage family therapist intern located in Sacramento, California. And today's talk is really focusing on the side of communication that you can change just by changing how you communicate, your approach, your timing, your body language, your tone of voice, and the words you choose. You can make a big difference in how your partner reacts. So what I'm going to be covering today is really how to avoid the biggest communication mistakes, deliver clear, direct messages, and that allow you to connect with your partner on a rich emotional level. So communication mistakes. Let me start here. What I hear from a lot of people is this hinting thing. Ooh, it's cold in here, isn't it? Or slamming a door and trying to let someone know that you're really angry. And those all work. They're not very direct, and it leaves people that are around you in a mind reading state, um, which isn't always great. And another one is posing your thoughts or statements back to somebody in a question. Someone comes home, your partner comes home and says, "Hey, look, my office is holding a Christmas party, and I'm excited." And the partner that doesn't want to go ends up saying something like, you don't want to go to that, do you? When really they mean they don't want to go. So it's very passive, it's very hinty, and there's a real myth in a lot of women that, if he really loved me, he would know what I want and I wouldn't have to tell him. And I'm going to tell you that's not true. When you can provide direct communication, presenting how you feel about something and what your needs are specifically, you're going to see some big changes in your relationship. So I'm going to go over that. Another one is blame. Once you get into these familiar arguments that really hide underlying issues, and that's blame messages, and usually, gosh, you're the one that's always doing that, doesn't provide for any communication other than blame, defend, blame, defend. So you messages come in here. So you should, you shouldn't have done that, or you didn't. And very close behind that is using the always and never words. You never listen to me. Well, it's going to just create an argument, and so I always encourage couples to take out the always and never in their conversations. And the last one here I'm going to talk about is sarcasm. Really, sarcasm is just anger and resentment disguised as humor, and there's really nothing funny about it. Another big mistake is timing. Oftentimes in business, we'll knock on someone's door and go, "Hey, I've got something I want to talk to you about. Is this a good time?" And we don't offer that same courtesy to our partners at home. Someone comes home and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I got to tell you something," and boy, are you in trouble. It's our startup and our timing can be delivered in such a better way. So it's okay. It's completely okay to go, "Hey, I've got something I want to talk to you about. Is this a good time?" And honoring you're doing a nice startup and you're asking if the timing is right. So a lot of the times that I see couples and even individuals, I recommend that they go to Keirsey.com, which is a free online temperament survey, and it's going to give you 4 parts of the way you personally see the world, how you normally interact, what your preferences are, and dealing on a day-to-day level. And the one I'm going to point out here is really important in communication. Now, extrovert doesn't mean outgoing, and introvert means shy. In the temperament, it means something different. So if you're extroverted, you tend to process out loud to come to some idea, and often will just say things that you don't really mean, aren't going to follow through with, but you're just processing. You're energized by a crowd, being around people and talking really gives you energy. That's just part of it. And so for an introvert, the processing is done internally. If you ask an introvert a question, there's going to be a pause, and they're going to be thinking about their answer and then come up with something. An introvert can also do, if they're energized enough, can do fine in crowds and public and stuff, but not for very long. A crowd will usually drain an introvert. And so imagine this. An introvert's been out working all day, had a stressful day on top of that, and is really just kind of feeling overwhelmed and can't wait to come home and relax a little bit. When the extrovert shows up at the door, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today, and starts going in. What's going to happen for the introvert is that they get flooded and they're not able to process any more of that. If the extrovert doesn't know that about the introvert, is going to just think that they're not there for them. When in reality, the introvert can know that and say, hey, look, this isn't a good time for me. Can I have some alone time and then I'll get back with you? And I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. So there's a variety in that, and knowing your partner is going to make a big difference. So then we get to body language. When you look at this pie chart, you realize that really, as part of communication, 7% is words. The other part of communication involves body movements, face, arms, facial, the way you move your arms when you're talking, voice, tone, modulation, pauses. Those are all part of body language. So the problem comes up when there's incongruence. So many sitcoms will, play this scene where, the woman's standing there with her hands on her hips and her eyes rolling and her mouth gripping in tension, and the husband says, honey, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, you hear her say. Very incongruent. And again, it leads to ineffective communication and mind reading on the part of someone else. What happens after that? Oh no, honey, really, tell me what's wrong, rather than having a, wow, I'm really angry right now and I don't know that I can talk about it, but I'll check in with you later type communication that is authentic to the body language. So in delivering clear messages, this is kind of a formula that you can follow, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes having a partner that's willing to listen. And but it's definitely, whether that partner listens or not, it's a way to deliver clear messages, and that's the piece that you have control over. So really, it's observations. What do you notice? You're going to talk about, state what you notice without the judgment. You're really talking about facts. Thoughts. What did this trigger something in you? Have you decided something about it? This is really where the judgment piece comes in. Then your emotions, how you feel. What does this bring up in you? And then needs. This is often what's left off conversation, and it's really, what specifically do you want? Now, this is stereotypical, but often I encourage women to be specific with their men. There'll be times that I've got a couple in my office, and a woman will say, I just really need to feel more connection from you. I want to feel more loved. And the husband will sit there with a dazed look on their face and go, okay, really, if you think about it, how does he know when he's doing that right? So I want you to be specific in this part of specifically what you need. When you come home from work, I want you to come greet me, give me a kiss and a hug, so that I feel connected to you when you walk in the door. That does make me feel more loved. That's real specific. So let me give you a scenario. Joe and Jane have been married for about a year. Joe has about 6 months on a new job. This is his first marriage. He's really been a great guy most of his life. He's not perfect by all means, but he's never cheated on his girlfriend, and he certainly has never cheated on Jane, even when they were dating. Now, Jane, on the other hand, is remarried. This is her second marriage, and in her previous marriage, her husband cheated on her a couple times and eventually left her um, for his mistress. And she had a ton of processing to do about this, has done her own healing, enough so that she was ready to be in another relationship. But, this is part of her history. It's going to be part of it for her. So it's Christmas time, just 6 months into his job, and he's excited because they really like him and he really wants to, show his wife off and get to know people on a better level. And so they go, Joe and Jane walk in and they walk over to the refreshment table. Now Jane's more of an introvert, but she can make her way around a room. She's generally okay by herself. But tonight, Mark comes up and grabs Joe around the shoulder and brings him over to a new group. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to meet so and so. So Jane's standing at the table, feeling a little uncomfortable, but trying to catch her breath. And she begins to watch Joe over there, kind of flit from group to group. He's laughing, he's joking. There's attractive women around him that seem to kind of be flirting with him and touching him on the shoulder, and she's triggered. You can imagine her standing there, and some big emotions are coming up for her. She could be getting angry. She could be feeling jealous. She could just be getting really mad. Think about yourself in that situation. So, really, this is what's going on when there's communication happening. There's a lot of stuff happening underneath. What we see are body language, words, tone. This isn't any communication, but in this specific example, I want you to think about, her past experiences and fears being deeply activated. So, can you imagine how that ride home might be for Joe? It could be horrendous. And she could be mad and she could be giving him the silent treatment and go through 3 days of raging. But let's do this in a way that's delivering a clear message. Okay? So she's got to be able to control her emotional response and has the tools, hopefully, to work through that. So this would be a conversation that she would have on the way home. So, Joe, tonight I noticed that you spent time talking to other people, especially women, when I was left alone at the buffet table and really not included at all. I was thinking that you didn't care about me or you really didn't even want to be with me. You could really care less. I was feeling really lonely, jealous, was really hurt and really angry. In the future, when you invite me to your company party, I would like to be included in conversations. Please notice me and don't leave me just standing there alone for, hours, half an hour as it was in this time. Or I'd really not rather go. I'd rather not go in the future. So oftentimes people think at this moment of, oh yeah, that sounds completely canned. I couldn't do that. My spouse would just completely make fun of myself, or they think, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I'll just let it go. Well, imagine if you had a loving, caring partner that was able to connect with you on a deep level. What if he knew your triggers and was able to go, oh my gosh, honey, I completely forgot. I know that that kind of stuff triggers you. I didn't mean to do that. I was just kind of off in my own world, and I can really see how much you were hurt by that, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. What a different connection and conversation that could be versus, holding on to resentment or being angry for 5 days and yelling at him in the car, or, and he's going, what? I didn't do anything wrong. It could be way different. So this requires practicing active listening, direct communications, and connecting with your emotions on a deep level. This really requires self-awareness, and that's where we talk about emotional intelligence and learning tools to handle your own emotions. But beyond this example, there's other ways of connecting with somebody in a conversational way other than, talking about details of life, kids, bills, etc. When I have couples in my office, sometimes I will send them on an assignment to go sit at Starbucks for a few minutes, and the subjects that are off limits are bills, home, work, and kids. So what are they going to talk about? I encourage you to take some time to write down some conversation starters. And rather than stopping and looking at the wife stopping and looking at the husband and saying, honey, I just want to know how you feel. What are you thinking? Which usually never goes over well. What about, okay, so tell me the most weird dream you've had over this last month. Do you remember any? Um, okay, have you had a really embarrassing moment in this last year? Tell me what it was. Or what's your favorite movie and why? These types of topics will garner some conversation that will go deeper and go richer if you let yourself do it without judgment and really lean in and listen to the other person and start the conversations yourself. So it requires a level of vulnerability, and that's a whole other topic. But for now, just end with that. The other piece that's really important is to learn each other's love languages. Gary Chapman has written a book, The 5 Love Languages, and if you go to the website, just Google it, The 5 Love Languages, there's actually a test that both husbands and wives can take to find out what your preference is. And they are acts of service, words of affirmation, time spent together, touch, and gifts. I almost forgot the last one. And we usually feel loved by our partner in a different way. And usually we give to our partner what our love languages is. So, notice, do you, bring home gifts and flowers to your spouse and doesn't really look like it makes a difference to them? Well, generally you want the gifts. So letting your spouse in on that can really make a difference. So I've got some gifts for you. Where do you go from here? So you've learned a little bit on your side of the street of communicating. And the second bullet point here will also be a talk I gave that will give you some other tips on speaking so that you're heard. Then there's the listening side. That's a whole nother piece that I encourage you to listen to. And then I have a free ebook that you're welcome to download. All 3 of these are available to you. I did a talk at the Sacramento Women's Expo in 2013, and I still have that link up. So feel free, even if you didn't go, to go to this link, counselinginsacramento.com/Women Expo, and download those gifts and start practicing. I also wanted to give, just kind of in closing, some suggestions. Pay attention to your body language. Try to deliver congruent messages. Use direct communication. In a lot of the business communication talks and, the shortcut models generally, when you, I felt, and I need. And I like this little tweak on this formula because sometimes when you start off with when you, it's an invitation for somebody to get defensive. And so I like this tweak better, see what works for you. But when this happened, I thought, and that's the part that you can own, that's your own triggers or your own things that are going on in your head. I felt, and I need. And if it doesn't come out I need, it can be a will you. So make a specific request that this doesn't happen again or that it will be done differently. And this will really allow you to connect. This provides the emotional connection that we need. We're really looking for safe, connected partnership where we have each other's back. And practicing communication is a great piece of it. If you'd like to get in touch with me, here's my contact information. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation in person in Fair Oaks, California, outside of Sacramento, or via Skype or phone, where I can help you find out where you're at, where you want to be, and if we're the right team to get you to your destination. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.